Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Discovered Ancient Jordan and Petra webinar. Today, I'm going to be focusing on our October 17th trip. My name is Ayman, and I'm going to be the guide on this trip. Let me tell you a little bit like a short brief about this trip before I go ahead and introduce myself. This trip is a 12-day trip covering the highlights of Jordan from north to south, plus one of the hikes or one of the most famous hikes internationally, not just locally, Dana to Petra hike that was ranked by National Geographic as one of the best 15 new hikes in the world, basically. So this is one of the this is a great tour basically for everyone, for anyone who wants to join, and I highly recommend it because this trail is one of my favorite trails in Jordan. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Ayman. I'm of course a tour guide in Jordan. I studied tourism in Jordan. I studied history and archaeology and sustainable tourism. My plan was to be an archaeologist, but I couldn't be away from people for a long time, so I had to change my plan and chose something that I love, which is guiding, basically. Of course, I chose it because I enjoy sharing my country with others, sharing food with others, and I never guide tours that doesn't have good food in it. So if I'm guiding this trip, you can be sure that the food is great. I'll go through the trip day by day, and after that, we'll have a chance for questions if anyone has questions. Of course, on day one, which is October 17th, that's going to be the arrival day. You'll be assisted by our representative at the airport, and of course, you'll be transferred to the hotel. We'll have a welcoming dinner to meet everyone and to give a little brief about the tour again. And you'll spend the night, of course, in Amman, which is the capital. On the second day, that's when we're gonna start the city tour. We're gonna tour the main sites in Amman, or the highlights of Amman, of the city. We'll visit the Roman Theater, the Citadel, some of the neighborhoods that basically covers the history and the culture of the city. Amman is, of course, a very old city. It has been continuously inhabited for thousands of years. So during the tour, we'll try to cover all of the history of Amman. Of course, we're going to spend the night in Amman on that day as well. On day three, we're going to leave the hotel early in the morning to head to the north to visit Jerash, the Greco-Roman city, which is the most well-preserved Roman city outside Rome. We call it, of course, Pompeii of the East as well. Of course, we visit the site, then we head further to the south to visit Ajloun, the Muslim castle from the 13th century. We wander around the castle and enjoy the architecture in that castle and the history of that area overlooking the Holy Land. And after that, we're going to have a lunch in a local family house before heading back to Amman. That's a very special day for me because I love the family that we have lunch with. It's a local family. They live in Ajloun and they are from the same area. They own the land. They live in a farm, and we're going to have lunch there. On day four, we're going to leave Amman also early in the morning, right after breakfast, to head to Madaba. We'll start with Mount Nebo first. Mount Nebo, where the Prophet Moses finished his journey, basically, overlooking the Holy Land. After that, we'll visit the downtown, where the mosaic, the biggest floor mosaic, basically, floor mosaic map was ever found. It was found in Madaba. It shows both sides of the river, of the Jordan River, and that's inside St. George Church. We're going to visit that church, wander around the downtown of the city before heading further to the south to visit one of the Crusaders' castles, the castle of Kerak. We're going to visit that castle. After that, we head also further to the south to arrive in Dana and that's gonna be the start point of our big adventure, basically, which is the trek. We spend the night in Dana village, which is an Ottoman village about 400 years old. We spend the night in a hotel right in the middle of the old village, basically. Early in the morning, we're going to start the trek. Of course, we're going to have a full brief about the trek on that night at the hotel. The trek starts on day 5 from Dana to Feynan to the Ecolodge. Of course, this is a special day because it's mainly descending all the way to the Ecolodge. It's about 14 k's. We start at about 1,200 meters in Dana, and we descend all the way to the sea level, basically to the Dead Sea level, where Feynan Ecolodge is. We spend the night at the Ecolodge, which is one of the best 25 ecolodges in the world, according to National Geographic magazine. It's all lit by candles. It's a very peaceful place. It supports more than 300 people directly. So on this day, we'll contribute a lot to the community in that area by spending the night at the Ecolodge. Early in the morning, the day after, we'll be transferred from Feynan Ecolodge to the mountain areas. On top overlooking Araba Valley. Basically, we leave the Dead Sea level area all the way to about 1,200 meters again. That's going to be a drive. We'll be transferred by jeeps. The locals will transfer us. We'll arrive to the mountains on day 6, basically. Start the hike as soon as we arrive. They transfer the luggage to the campsite, because on this day we're going to spend the night in a wilderness camp. So the Bedouins will build a camp for us. I'll tell you a little bit about the camps at the end of this the webinar. As soon as we arrive at the camp, of course, our luggage will be there, the tents will be ready, we have dinner there and spend the night. This day is about 17 k's, so it's a little bit long with some ascents and descents. So this will be the longest day actually on our hike. We spend the night there. The day after, we start hiking from the campsite all the way to enter Little Petra from the back way. Little Petra, it's also a small site in the Petra region. It was called Little Petra because it's a mini copy of Petra. I would say it was mainly for the caravan sarais. It was a rest house for the traders during that time. We'll wander through that site. We'll enter it from the back way, from the mountains. Then we'll continue all the way to our Bedouin camp. When I say a Bedouin camp, it's not like the night before. It's not like Bedouin tents private tents built by Bedouins. It's actually fixed tents built by Bedouins, so they don't move them. That camp is always there, basically. In these tents, there will be like 2 beds with blankets, sheets. There will be even electricity until midnight. So it's a little bit more like modern, or I would call it glamping more than camping. They have also shared toilets, shared showers, not like the wilderness camping. We spend the night there and we'll get ready the day after for the big day, which is entering Petra from the back door from the mountains. That day itself is a very special day because people usually enter from the main trail through the gorge to see Petra, to see the treasury, the main monument or the famous monument inside. We're going to do that, of course, the day after, but we're adding this day, which is entering from the back door from the mountain, to cover the more of the landscape and more of the site. So we arrive in Petra basically after hiking for about like 3 hours. We'll arrive in the site, and we'll of course walk through the site. Walking through the site itself is a hike. The site is huge. You can spend up to 7 days. We're going to have almost 2 full days inside the site, and we'll cover what people usually cover in 4 or 5 days. We'll wander through the site, and we'll leave through one of the valleys called the Dark Tunnel all the way to our hotel. So we'll skip the treasury on the first day. We skip the famous monument inside Petra on the first day entering Petra, because the day after, right after breakfast, we're going to enter Petra from the visitor center walking through the famous Sikh or gorge in English. We walk through it all the way to get to the main monument, which is the treasury. We'll spend also almost a half day on the second day in Petra. We'll try to see more things that we didn't see on the first day. And almost half day, we will be transferred directly. Of course, we go back to the visitor center. We pick up our luggage. Then the bus will transfer us for about 2 hours ride to Wadi Ram, to our Mars, as they call it, where the movie Lawrence of Arabia was filmed, and the new movie The Martian, Matt Damon's movie, was filmed as well. We call it the Valley of the Moon. That's also a very special day for me because in that area you see the biggest amount of stars that you ever see in your life. So we are going to get there by sunset time. We'll do a 2 hours jeep tour until sunset. Then we spend the night in the Bedouin camp, which is another fixed Bedouin camp with more facilities. There will be toilets inside the tents on this night and showers as well. Hot water is available. We'll have a Bedouin dinner that night. On that night, the dinner is special. I won't tell you much about it, but remember that. We spend the night there. Early in the morning, after breakfast, we'll be transferred to the Dead Sea, and that's going to be our last day when, you know, the Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth, and it's a salty sea or lake, basically. We'll spend the day there floating on the water, enjoying the mud, covering our bodies with mud. It's a very special day as well. And from there, that's going to be the last day where we're going to have a farewell dinner. And after the day after, we'll have, of course, that's the departure day. We'll be transferred directly to the airport. So that's basically, we went through the itinerary day by day. Now I'm going to read some of the questions that I am receiving now. The first question is basically, can we accommodate vegan or vegetarian diets? Yes, on every stage or in every accommodation that we're going to stay at, we'll have vegetarian options, and also at the restaurants where we're going to have meals, or even the Bedouin lunch boxes that we're going to receive from Bedouins, we have also vegetarian options. And we can also change some of the lunch boxes on spot. We can ask the Bedouins to change our lunch boxes. That's for the hikes days during the trek. For the restaurants, hotels, we always have that option. Feynan Ecolodge, they only serve vegetarian food for dinner and breakfast, so there is no meat at all in that day. Another question we have here is favorite meal setting, food during the day. During the day, we'll have, in some areas, we'll have restaurants. In some areas, we'll have lunch during the hike. During the summer, we'll go to restaurants, and one day when we're in Ajloon in the north, we're going to have lunch in a local family house. Of course, no need to worry about the restaurants, the best kind of food we can get in the areas that we're going to. Even in the Bedouin areas, you know, the Bedouins, they have like limited options, but we managed to get the best kind of meals that we can get from the Bedouins. And of course, we always like we trained them, and they've been working with us for a long time, so they know our standards, and they know how to take good care of our food, so no need to worry about that. Another question we have is, what is the weather like? In October usually, or end of October, or toward the end of October, we start getting sometimes some I would say showers, but it's not, it's changing now, you know, with the climate change, everything is different. We didn't get any rain until now, and now it's the beginning of October. So I don't expect that we'll get rain, honestly, but I would carry a very light rain cover, and I'll keep it in my just in case in my luggage, and we'll be checking the weather forecast day by day, and of course I'll be informing you about any updates during the trip. So you won't need to carry it unless if we share that information with everyone that we are expecting rain. Other than during the day, the temperature is between 20 to 30 degrees. That's during the day. At night, it's sometimes it goes down to 15 to 20. So sometimes it's a little bit cold. Yeah. So just a fleece and you need to bring maybe warm socks and just an extra layer. That would be enough. No need for heavy coats. And it's very important to bring hats because the sun in Jordan is sometimes strong, and there is few areas where you get shade during the trek. Number 4, the question we have is what type of vehicles or car do we use, and how long are the transfers? When we're staying in Amman, when we do the north part, basically, and also when we head to the south for the long rides, we use buses, basically, like 16-seater buses. They're, of course, comfortable. They're designed for visitors with comfortable seats. There are no toilets inside the about hours. If we have a long drive, which is something we're gonna have maybe twice on our tour, we stop every 2 hours at like rest houses where there are toilets to stretch our legs and use toilets. When we're in Feynan, on the day before we start the hike, in Dana as well, we'll have Bedouins transferring our luggage in pickups, basically Bedouin Jeeps or like Toyota Jeeps usually they use. They're open from the back, they put the luggage in the back, and they transfer our luggage to each campsite or each accommodation. There is one day when we're staying in Feynan at the Ecolodge. The Bedouins are going to transfer us in the morning to the mountains to continue on the second day of the hike. On that day, they're going to use the same Bedouin Jeeps, but we usually sit inside the Jeeps at the back. Of course, sometimes people prefer to sit in the back, but we try not to do it because it's a long drive, about 1 hour and a half. We sit inside. Each Jeep is enough for 4 people. They transfer us to the mountains. That's the only truck we're gonna use during the trek. When we're in Wadi Rum, when we do the Jeep tour, usually we sit in the back. They have seats enough for 6 people on each Jeep. They're open from the back, covered with an umbrella. So we sit on the back of the Jeep. They don't usually drive very fast, so it's safe, and we choose like good cars as well. So that's for the transfers. Another question we have is, I would say, what should you expect during the hike? Like, what's something unusual for hiking in Jordan? I would say, like I wouldn't recommend like leather shoes or leather boots, because sometimes when it gets too hot, you get blisters easily if you have like leather boots. So that's an advice I always tell it to people. I would recommend bringing water bladders if you have, instead of carrying plastic bottles or even normal like steel bottles. That encourages drink more water, and it's an easy access to water during the hike. I think those are all the questions we have. Another thing maybe I want to mention that I'm trying to remember everything. For the accommodation, for the wilderness camping, and usually that's basically going to be one night on our hike. The Bedouins, they're going to build a small camp for us. We stay in personal tents, like small private tents. Each tent is enough usually for 2 people, but we use it for 1 person. They have mats inside, like foam mattresses, like the 6-7 centimeters thick, so comfortable kind of mattresses. They also provide pillows and blankets. blankets. There won't be actually need for sleeping bags unless if you think that you're going to be really cold, or if you usually feel very cold and you need lots of covers, because we provide blankets and they even provide sleeping bags. Sleeping bags, usually people tend to use their own. They don't like to use or use sleeping bags, and that's of course very reasonable. So if you prefer to bring your sleeping bag, you can do that. Or if you bring your liner or your the cover that you wear inside the sleeping bag, that's also another option if you don't want to carry your own sleeping bag. There will be 2 tents that we're going to use for toilet and shower during the wilderness camping. So you'll have the chance to take a quick shower or using like a plastic, water bucket, and you just splash yourself with the water. Basically, that's the Bedouin shower during the wilderness camping. That's only one night. I'm sure we can survive that day. You can bring some wet wipes if you don't want to shower that day. And also, in most of the places during the hikes, there will be like soap and tissues, so you don't need to worry about that. I would carry like a small pack of wet wipes if for your personal use if you need it. But usually we provide all these small hygiene stuff during the trip. I think that's all the questions that I have here. So thank you all for attending this webinar, and I really hope to see all of you on this trip, and I am looking forward to welcoming you in my country and to share my beautiful country with you. Thank you so much.